Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. Welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, April 8th, 2021. I'm going to call us to order at 2:01 p.m. And I would like to acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District operates on and is on the traditional territories of the Squamish and the Sechelt First Nations. We have an agenda in front of us today. It is an amended agenda. Before we move to adopt the agenda, are there any other items that need to be added on for today? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt this amended agenda, please. So move Director McMahon, seconded Director Toth. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. I'm going to ask for a motion to receive all minutes, reports, please, reports, communications, etc. So move Director McMahon, seconded Director Beamish. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. So first up on our agenda is Annex A, pages 1 to 13 of our package, and it's the regular board meeting minutes of March 25th, 2021. Director Seegers.
Thank you. On page 4, recommendation number 1. I don't know how we deal with this. Page 4.
Sorry, I just have to go back to my other agenda. Yep. Okay, page 4. Recommendation number 1, the housing needs report. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
Do we need to discuss it separately, or?
I think this would go under business arising from the minutes, so that we could be dealt with in our next item, unless it's unless, because right now we're dealing with we've received the minutes, but we need to adopt them.
Yes.
So this would be business arising from the minutes, is what I'm guessing is what you're asking.
Yes and no. This recommendation is that the board workshop happen and that an invitation to the workshop be extended to the district, Sechelt, Town of Gibson, Sechelt Nation, and Squamish Nation councils and staff.
Okay. Okay, and so your question on that is
this direction we're looking at going?
Well, that was the recommendation that was passed at board on the 25th. So maybe I'll put that over to staff to see how that, for an update on how that's been actioned. Who'd like to take that? CAO?
Or could you repeat the question, please?
Okay, it's recommendation number 1 on page 4 of the regular board meeting minutes, and it's regarding the housing, the Sunshine Coast Housing Needs Report Implementation Framework, and that the invitation to the workshop be extended to District of Sechelt, Town of Gibson, Sechelt Nation, and Squamish Nation's councils and staff.
So my understanding is that we were going with a format that was the first workshop would be SCRD only, followed by a report and potentially a follow-up workshop.
Okay. Director Seegers, does that answer your question?
That's fine. That's not what the recommendation says, but
yes.
Okay. So,
okay. Fair point. So because we do have the board workshop that's scheduled, I believe, next week, is it? And that okay, I hear what you're saying. I think staff to is CEO any further clarification on that, or
was essentially the discussion coming out of the rural directors meeting was staff had provided a few options, and it looked like moving forward with a SCRD based workshop followed by an additional staff report with the potential to then convene a second workshop that would be open to a wider audience.
Okay. Director McMahon and then Director Toth.
I wasn't on the workshop question, although, there are specific issues to the rural areas. And then there's issues that are broader than the rural areas, but do you want me to? I was going to mention that on page 9 of the regular board minutes, Pender Harbor became Lender Harbor. It's just a typo, but, Bender Harbor. Yeah, autocorrect at work.
Oh, that's under recommendation number 4, that it's Bender Harbor.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And then Director Toth.
Thank you. Just following up on that recommendation 1 from page 4. I think the reason why Director Seegers mentioned it, and I was going to mention it if she didn't, is that it came up yesterday at council in my council report, because the council knew that this was happening and we hadn't seen an invitation yet to this workshop, and we're wondering when council was going to be invited to the workshop. So I only just heard now that it looks like we're doing 2 workshops. Didn't know that before. So if that is indeed the case, great. I can pass that back to my council.
Okay. Director McMahon, back to you. Any other typos or anything or questions on the minutes before we move to adopt them?
I had business arising, but that's after. Okay, so.
Okay. All right. Director Hiltz?
Is recommendation being pulled to rejig the wording? Is that what we're going to be doing, or we're going to leave it stand? I'm not quite sure where we are.
Well, that's a good question. And, I'm going to look to, I know Director Seegers had started this questioning. Do you want to pull it and adjust the wording with, and I'm going to look to our corporate officer on the best way forward on this, if whether or not we should do this now, because there's a difference in recollection, and there's a difference direction going forward. So Director Seegers.
But I think this was the recommendation that the board passed, or whoever, wherever it was a regular board meetings. This was a recommendation that passed. I think there's been some subsequent conversation, but it's not necessarily reflected in the recommendation that's in the motion here. I wasn't privy to that meeting, so I don't know what that conversation had. So if the rural directors are looking to have this be something else, then I think the wording does need to be changed. If not, then, my recollection of this recommendation was we weren't necessarily expecting all the councillors and staff to come, but just open the invitation to them. It was an SCRD workshop, but just more a sharing of information at the workshop. So I would say it's up to the rural directors if they're looking at changing the workshop. If not, then this is how it's actioned, and the invitation should go out as per the recommendation.
Okay. So we do have this as a recommendation from the last board meeting. Director McMahon, I saw your hand up. We'll go to you.
Yeah, I haven't gone back and looked through my mail, but I think the workshop we're looking at is to take a deep dive into housing in the rural areas, and what are the specific challenges in the rural areas, which is not quite the broad framework yet.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, I don't think that we can go and change things, change our words after the fact. I think probably our corporate officer would frown if we did that.
Yeah, and I'm anticipating that too. So, corporate officer, please stay with me here.
Thank you, Chair. If the recommendation has not been acted upon, you can amend something previously adopted.
But we already have a direction going forward. There is implementation, or there is a workshop that is happening next week. And I'd look to staff because the workshop, off the top of my head, I can't see what it, or I can't remember what it is. So I would go to either GM Hall or CO McKinley for direction on that. GM Hall, please. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry for any confusion that staff are at the root of here. Staff are prepared to fulfill the directive as it's worded in the minutes. The workshop that is planned for next week is designed as one of the directors, I apologize, I forget who said it, mentioned, to be a deeper dive with a focus on rural areas. And the good news is that, I guess it's good news, that the housing crisis is not going to be solved in one workshop. So there will be work left to do, and we'll be pleased to have a more intergovernmental and inclusive conversation that will be all the stronger after we work through this more focused rural chat next week. Thank you.
Okay. So there's a confusion. So the workshop that's happening next week is more of a rural issues one, a rural centric one, and that the more intergovernmental one will be happening later on. Okay.
Thank you. That clarifies it.
Okay. The roundabout long question does clarify it. Okay. So any other changes to the minutes, and then we will do business arising from the minutes. So there was the typo on Bender. There was the clarification on any other things? Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt these minutes as amended, please, with the change, with that typo change. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. I'm going to go Director Lee, business arising from the minutes. I saw your hand up there before did you have a question, business arising from the minutes? Director Lee and then Director McMahon.
It actually was a question on what we were talking about. If the rural areas are meeting to talk about housing in a separate meeting, I don't know why the whole board couldn't be present if they wanted to be bored.
Well, the whole board is invited to this. It was just the issue of the other elected councils and boards.
Okay, so all the board will come to that meeting and that'll be cool. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Director Lee. Director McMahon.
Right, I just was wondering what the status of I can't talk, the soil donation for the Sprockheads Park. I was just wanting an update on that, and then I had a comment.
Okay. GM Hall, do you have an update?
I'm sorry, I don't, Chair.
Okay.
It remains in progress. Thanks.
Thank you.
Just my comment is that, you know, if this happens again, I think we should take a deeper look at it, because it's not clear to me what clean fill means and whether there really is a definition, because apparently clean fill can be full of knotweed. And also the issue of where excavation material is going on the coast. That's a big problem in Metro Vancouver. And I've had a number of reports of various materials being dumped on ALR properties. And it appears that there isn't a proper avenue for contractors to dispose of the material properly. So I'll leave that particular sleeping dog lying at this point, but if it comes up again, I won't. That's my comment.
Okay. Thank you, Director McMahon. Okay, any other business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? Okay, seeing none, we'll move through. We have no presentations and delegations today. We do have reports. So this is Annex B, pages 14 to 16 of our package, number 3 on your agenda. And it's the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendations, numbers 1 through 3 and 5 of March 25th, 2021. Directors, before we adopt these as a block, would you like to pull any of these recommendations for further debate? I see no movement, so I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt these recommendations from the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee of March 25th, 2021. So moved and seconded. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. We have no communications today. However, we do have some motions. So the first motion on number 4 on our agenda is that the resignations of Gareth Bennett and Shirley Higginson from the Solid Waste Management Plan Monitoring Advisory Committee be received, and that the resignation of Barb Hetherington from Solid Waste Management Plan Monitoring Advisory Committee be received in accordance with Section 4.6 of the Solid Waste Plan Monitoring Advisory Committee's terms of reference. Before I'm going to look to the directors to see if I have a mover for this motion, number 4. So moved, Director McMahon, seconded, Director Ties. Are there any questions or comments on these motions? Questions for staff? Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose a question for staff in that with 1, 2, 3 resignations here, are staff going to be advertising to replace those members of the committee, or how does that work? Thank you.
Okay, GM Rosenboom.
Thank you for the question. We're always, and in this case, there are some vacancies. So if there are residents that would like to participate in the committee, they can connect with us and can apply, and then we bring it forward to the board and then for the board's consideration. We're not suggesting to currently actively solicit applicants, given that if we start with the Solid Waste Management Plan update process this fall, this committee will be stopped and new committee will be formed. And we expect that there will be a lot more people interested in the planning moving forward, what to do with the solid waste on the coast, than with the last 3 or 5 months of the implementation of the previous plan. So that's why, if people are interested, they're more than welcome to apply, and we'll bring it forward. But currently, there is still some capacity left, some good active members left within the committee that we still feel that there's valid discussions and advice being provided to the board.
Thank you, GM Rosenboom. Director Lee.
I was just curious, when people resign like this, do we ever do exit interviews to see why they were leaving, whether they were unhappy with what we were doing or just in fact their personal life changed? Do we ever do those kind of things?
GM Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I can't say that in every case, since there are many situations under which our volunteers conclude their service with us, but generally, and that certainly was the case with our APC member.
Thank you.
It's an opportunity to learn and support all of our volunteers. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question on the PMAC resignations, please. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up is number 5, a motion that the resignation of Gretchen Bozak from the West Howe Sound Area F Advisory Planning Commission be received. May I have a mover for that, please? So moved, Director Hiltz, seconded Director McMahon. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, number 6, that the resignation of Gretchen Bozak from the Agriculture Advisory Committee be received. Mover for that, please. Director Hiltz, seconded Director McMahon. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Question for, I'll go to Director Hiltz first, and then I have a question as well. Director Hiltz.
Yeah. Sorry. I lost my place. Where did I go?
Director
Go
Hiltz,
somewhere.
you're now
Go.
screen sharing.
Stop it.
Okay.
Stop it. Sorry.
Director McMahon will have to make up a new sign. You are now screen sharing when you're not allowed to.
Oh yeah, I was just pondering. Is it a responsibility of the board to actually accept a resignation? Like if a member, or is it just a matter of receiving? Do we actually need to accept a resignation? It just seems kind of like, I don't want to accept a resignation. Like, what do I want? It just seems kind of a funny thing to accept a resignation for a volunteer who's, so receiving seems to be, it's just a kind of a funny thing.
Okay. That is a great question for our corporate officer. Ms. Reed, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. You're not actually adopting it, so you are receiving it, and it's on an agenda mostly for public transparency purposes.
Thank you. So my question is, and I think we've asked this before, but I'm about, do we automatically send a letter of gratitude to any resignations as they occur?
Yes, we do.
Excellent. Thank you. Terrific. Okay, well, with that, takes us to the end of our motions. We have no bylaws today, but we do have directors' reports. The way we will handle our directors' reports today will once again be by, let's see, whoever volunteers first. You can volunteer instead of being voluntold. Okay, I saw Director Beamish's hand up first. Director Beamish? Oh, where's the sign, Director McMahon?
Right.
There we go.
First of all, Board, I'd like to point out, and it's some sadness that we do not see Connie Jordanson on the attendee list today. And with the closure, shutting down of the local, it's unfortunate that we now only have the one newspaper on the coast to report what we're doing. And Connie was always very good about attending the meetings, listening to the meetings, and reporting her meetings. So with some sadness, we say goodbye to her in that role. Anyway, I hope that she will stay involved in the community. We in Gibson's last week, we held a Easter community dinner. It's very similar to the Christmas dinner, very extensive volunteer involvement. We served 342 meals, and of which 120 were delivered. 80 of those going down to Seashell to the supportive housing and the shelters, Royal Reach and Cozy Court, so that they were all looked after. And then the balance went to the supportive housing and shelter people here in Gibson. So, and then others were all organized in such a way that people phoned in, made a reservation for dinner, arrived at the door, walked through the lineup of 11 Elphinstone School students. They were all track students from the club at the school, and exited with their dinner and in a bag, a reusable shopping bag provided by the shopper Super Value. So it was really well done and well attended. A lot of work for volunteers, but a very rewarding day, and it was excellent. So we look forward now to Thanksgiving, which is the next dinner, which you're already thinking about. As well as in terms of activity in Gibson's, our last council meeting, we appointed Councillor Kroll to chair a committee to review and look at options for residential standards of maintenance, all relating to kind of issues around one of our residents who appears to living in substandard conditions right now because of the condition of her building. And the appears to be an effort by the landlord through that process, although prepared to do the renovations, is also not prepared to continue the occupation by that tenant. So she has a recourse to the residential tenancy branch. We're looking at the bigger picture and saying, how do we prevent this from getting that bad in the first place, and seeing what the options are. So right now it's Councillor Kroll. He'll be looking for additional committee members to work with him. And we've asked him to report back by the 25th of June on that project. So we'll keep you informed. But I think for now, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Director Beamish. I had seen Director Ties's hand go up right after yours. So Director Ties, you can go next. I will say Director Beamish first before Director Ties starts. It's great news on how many people were served at the Easter dinner. That's
We had
fantastic.
just shy of 300 for the Christmas dinner. So,
Wow. Well, it's good that so many people receive meals. It's sad that so many people need to receive meals. So yeah. Director Ties, over to you, please.
Yeah, I just want to keep it short and sweet. Thank you to the District of Sechelt for the game of floods. So that was a lot of fun. And otherwise, it's been a pretty quiet couple weeks. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you, Director Ties. So who would like to volunteer next? I have Director Toth, please.
I go next, and Director Seegers can fill in my gaps. So in terms of council, we're continuing to wind our way through the budget process. We've sort of wrapped up our sewer discussions. There'll be a few last minute changes coming forward, but it's going to depend on a number of things. Last night, we gave approval to apply for a number of grants at our council meeting, including a joint project with CEIA, which I know Director Seegers will speak more to because she's part of the steering committee for that. I put forward a motion last night asking our staff to bring forward a budget proposal to get a consultant to look at short-term rental regulations in Sechelt. You know, the SCRD has something in place. Gibson's is somewhere through that process as well. And, you know, we're coming on tourism season here and nothing's going to get in place for this year, but it's time to start looking at that for us. So looking forward to seeing that come forward during budget. We passed funding recommendations for our community investment program grants last night. $47,500 was issued, and the committee had recommended another $24,000 in grants to be funded by our COVID restart money. And we didn't have those in front of us last night, but we did pass a motion to look at a budget line for 2021 to look at a grant program to be funded from the COVID restart funds in a similar sort of way to what Gibson's is doing with theirs for impacts of COVID to our nonprofits. Other than that, not too much to report. We have our Parcel Tax Rule review in a couple of hours, and I'd love to say I hope you'll all be there, but yeah, it'll be like a 2-minute meeting unless I can get somebody to sing and dance. So that's really all I have to report.
Director Toth, we volunteer you to sing and dance, so maybe it'll make it to 2.5 minutes. So, okay, moving on, Director McMahon. Or are you volunteering to sing and dance at tonight's parcel? No, oh no. Okay.
No, but I was just wondering if maybe Director Seegers wants to go next and finish off Sechelt, and then I'll go. How's that?
Okay, well, Director Seegers, you've been voluntold by Director McMahon, so
Sure,
I'll allow that.
Okay, what have I been up to in the last couple of weeks? Sechelt Chamber had their AGM, as you probably all heard. I'm awaiting word. They indicated something would come out this week to let us know who has been put in the place of chair. So look at who we're going to be working with at that point. I did have some meetings with some developers over the last couple of weeks here with regards to rental housing and assisted living, because as we all know, assisted living is something that we need on the Sunshine Coast here as well. And then Director Beamish and I had a conversation with the Sechelt Hospital Foundation, talking about mental health and addictions and detox and treatment. And more information about that will come forward next week at the Regional Hospital District meeting. Meeting or call recently with Minister Osborne and the Deputy Public Health Officer, and both Director Beamish and Chair Pratt were on the call as well. And they reiterated about the local government development approval program grant program, and talked about the vaccine rollout. And one of the things that was mentioned by the Deputy Provincial Health Officer is that the AstraZeneca vaccine and the other one that is similar to that, they have put on hold for use at this point, and they're doing some more testing and studying behind the scenes just to make sure they do their due diligence. One of the comments made on the call was from one of the mayors of one of the communities, I don't remember which one, but they said what they've noticed is that the impacts or the side effects were actually showing up more in women than in men. He said that's what's been kind of put out there, but they said that's actually not correct. The reason that that's showing up is that in the areas where it's been used in Europe, it's primarily been used with healthcare workers, and the majority of those are women. And so, yes, they have seen the side effects showing up more in women just because it's a larger population that they've been dealing with of, female. So they are doing their work on that. Once that is actually completed, then they'll be rolling out to the pharmacies. And as you'll probably recognize, there is a list already populating on their website. Some of the local pharmacies are on there, and we're looking at getting more on there. So that would then do the 18 to 55 age range. So that's coming. It was announced at our council meeting last night that Councillor Rowe, she works at the hospital, she's actually taken on a temporary position as the clinical supervisor for the vaccine program on the Sunshine Coast. So she'll be responsible for ensuring. So I've been already sending her, when I get comments or whatever, I fire them over to her because she'll have to deal with all those in the next bit. Coming up on April 13th, so that's next week, there is a poverty reduction forum in Sechelt. I know some of you attended the one in Gibsons. I'm looking forward to that one coming up. And then I do want to mention about the joint initiative. So the District of Sechelt, the Sechelt Nation and the Siaya Reconciliation Movement are looking at doing some joint projects in Sechelt under an umbrella of an initiative. We have 3 project managers, 2 project managers basically, and one who will be handling the costing of that. They're going to be actually going out starting today, talking to various community members, various organizations, etc., on potential projects that could be done by the community. So community initiatives, but joint funding. We're aiming for the June 25th application for the Canada Healthy Communities grant. And we anticipate there's going to be a number of projects that'll come forward in that. So you'll see more information. If you want to hear, there's a letter in our package actually last night, right at the front, which gives more details. We're all excited. It's initiated by Erin Joe and Nancy Denham, and where it came from, the history behind it is what was something I didn't know, and a lot of people who are actually local probably don't know either. If you come into Sechelt, there is a chain link fence that runs from Porpoise Bay to Trail Bay. Back years ago, when settlers came here, the province actually put up a chain link fence with barbed wire on the top, and the nation members were told they couldn't go past that fence. Well, parts of that chain link fence still exist, and the elders are saying, if we're going to do reconciliation, we want to see something happen to that chain link fence. So that will be one piece of it, but in conjunction with that, we're looking at other projects and things that can come forward. So exciting. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. Part of the work is bring ideas forward, and some may happen now and some may be going on into the future. So watch for that. There'll be more information coming out in the next while. And I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Seegers. Up next, Director McMahon.
Thank you. I attended the High Ground Conference 2 weeks ago, and I circulated my comments on it to the rest of the directors. In general, I think the conferences this year have been more focused on practical, on-the-ground issues, probably because we've had a year of emergency and we're all like face-to-face with practical issues. And I also like the fact that there aren't so many people between the speakers and the audience. Like, you don't have the handlers there, which is really nice, frankly. On the other hand, the networking that needs work. The online networking stuff, they're still trying to work it out, and it's not very successful so far. I sat in on 2 of the networking sessions, and the 2 big topics under discussion were burnout, because of course everybody's had a hell of a year, and bullying and harassment in local government. And those discussions are really, really interesting, because in a number of local governments, well, at all levels, there are issues, and they're really big issues. And it's not just, I mean, we've discussed it briefly before in some of our workshops, is that there is no protection for elected officials from bullying and harassment, because WorkSafe doesn't apply to us. Codes, the employment standards don't apply to us, et cetera, et cetera. And some people are really struggling with extremely difficult and toxic situations. So it is something that needs to be addressed. And there are some elected people organizing to take that to the province. I don't know how they're going to tackle it, frankly, because I don't know, more layers of regulation and procedures don't necessarily help, because the people who aren't going to follow them aren't going to follow them. I mean, no. So anyway, but I feel very fortunate to be working with this board. I gotta say, and the staff, thank you all very much. This is a pleasant environment, and it's respectful, and I really appreciate all the work that everybody's doing. I attended the Poverty Forum for Gibsons. On Tuesday, I attended a webinar about how we need to get off fossil fuels and combusting fossil fuels to fight climate change. And then on Wednesday, I attended a Fortis webinar that told me how natural gas is part of the answer to climate change, and how they are going to be promoting natural gas-fired heat pumps, which I thought was a whole new fascinating idea. Frankly, the industry has got to pivot their business model now, not 30 years from now. This is unacceptable. And they are big time launching campaigns to impress elected officials with how we need to support natural gas. So, be prepared. Tuesday, I attended the Farmers Institute AGM with guest Patrick Weiler, who looked tired because I was trying to think about what time of the morning he starts Zooming. So by 8 o'clock at night, that must be one heck of a day. On Wednesday, I double booked myself. So I listened in on a presentation on retention in local government, which also incidentally mentioned burnout, by Kazda Thomas, who is working on her university degree while being elected to Smithers Town Council. And then I dropped in on the second half of the planning meeting with the area's A and B APCs. And Thursday morning, we had a rural directors memorable meeting where we partly talked about the feedback from APCs. We also got talking about short-term rentals, and that is something that I want to bring up, I think maybe at the next planning meeting, because we need to do some heavy advocacy work around this. The situation that we find ourselves with short-term rentals is just completely unacceptable. And our hands are tied unless we get some help from senior government. And maybe that's what we should be doing. And we're certainly not alone. This is a problem right across BC, in all the popular places, at least, like here. Thursday afternoon, I was at Coast Cable sitting in for Lori. That was fun. I put all kinds of words in her mouth. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can tell she hasn't seen it yet. Now she's going to have to try and find it. And then finally, over the weekend, I went for a walk with my alternate director, Jason, and got to hear more about Zoom University. UBC has announced that they're going to have everybody back in person this fall. But given that the province just announced 1,300 new cases of COVID, I wouldn't be holding my breath on that one right now. And you'll be happy to know that Jason has been watching us on YouTube. So there. And finally, I have printed a paper newsletter and I will be getting it into the mail tomorrow. So thanks.
Okay. Well, hi, Jason. Good to see you. And thanks for watching. And I'm I don't know. I'll be looking forward to seeing the Coast Cable replay, Director McMahon. Okay. So who would like to go next? Director Hills.
Thank you. I'll just unmute rather than share my screen this time. So just a couple items. March 26th was the Ocean Watch Action Committee. And at this committee, there was a presentation by planners at West Vancouver. They're putting together the final steps of it's called a Coast Marine Management Plan. It's to deal with kind of sea level rise, erosion, all these issues around climate change. It's quite an extensive document. They've been doing a lot of work on it. They're 3 years into this process. And they apparently along the North Shore, there's quite a bit of working together with other municipalities about sea level rise. I guess it's a common topic for us who live around the water. It's just, and they have a lot of expensive property on the waterfront, and so they're working on it. And they've got some public outreach, and they're in the draft stages of some public participation. So it's quite an interesting document. There's a video on their website if you wanted to catch up on that. And just following on the Ocean Watch, just a reminder that the Howe Sound Community Forum will be held virtually again this year, 1 year anniversary of virtual meetings. It's on April 23rd. Always a good chance to hear from around the Sound. It's the roundtable is going to be part of it in 60 minutes. You get to hear 5 minutes from every municipality and group, and you really get a good sense of what's happening in the Sound. Jen, what else I do? I did a dock chat with the New Brighton Dock Committee on Gambier Island. So we did kind of put a spreadsheet out there and some taxation numbers, and kind of went through some scenarios about how the port function is funded, who's participating in it, and just overall how taxation works and the role of the SCRD going forward. So that was it was good to meet up with the group and to help them understand kind of the task that we're all working on and trying to figure out a solution for. So, and they did, I believe there was a petition. Patrick Weiler presented a petition late March in Parliament about that their JICA is asking for assistance on how to get out of this problem. So it made it to the national level there. That's it. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Director Hiltz. Director Lee?
Yeah, I was keeping my head down, but your notes are too good.
Oh, I've got the list.
Yeah, it's been been a little quiet for the last little while, other than the APC thing, but I think we've talked about that one enough. That 25% increase in taxes for Area A comment in the Coast Reporter got me to know a few of my constituents a little better. They're, speaking of bullying and harassment, they were rather direct in their questions. Even as late as today, I got one when I went down to help with finishing some cement for a volunteer project. But they were needling me. They already knew the answer. Anyways, we need to do something about that when there's an area like at Area A where it's 100 people in Egmont that have a 25% rate increase driven by the fire department and the pool, and yet everybody decides that's them. The other 2,400 decides they're getting a 25% increase. It's luckily Tina come along and rescued me a little bit. She pointed out a few percentages and it helped me answer the questions. But I was kind of hoping that was over, but it's not quite. I did point out that if you take the actual taxes per 100,000, Area A is still the lowest of all in the actual money put out. So I'm getting good at excuses.
Explanations. Explanations.
Clarification. We had a local COVID task force. We'd been scheduling them for once a month. But we've decided not bother with regularly scheduling. We would just use the email for any new information, mostly because everything is in hand. And unfortunately, this thing's getting to be routine, which is not a good thought, but that is the facts. Everybody's in place. Everybody's doing their thing. The food banks are busy, but they're fully funded. And the only real issues are the scheduling for the vaccinations, but I guess that can be handled by email. So we're not going to meet again unless some disaster comes along. So that one's effectively done. And we had a rural directors meeting, and I ended up kind of depressed afterwards. We talked about bylaw enforcement and the difficulties in actually being effective at it, getting the bad actors to actually pay their fines, just ignoring us. I think we have to do more work at it. But Andreas sent out a newsletter, and it was kind of a pep talk for me. He pointed out how we're doing, and in a very tough time, we're getting things done. And I'm kind of results oriented. So if something ain't getting fixed, I'm not happy. I'm not very good at status quo. But then I got thinking, we need to put our staff in place. We need to get people in place. We need to get people trained, and then we can move beyond the day-to-day doing okay and move into getting real solutions and putting things away forever, because that's what I like, making them gone so we don't have to visit them again. That's what I like to see. But it was pointed out that we're going to have to do some more work around bylaw enforcement in order to get that. In my area, bylaw enforcement is quite a big deal because we have a lot of STRs and we have a lot of junk properties and we have a lot of tramp campgrounds, and they're getting worse. They're not getting better, and not being able to address them puts a lot of stress on the director because he gets it. You know, the only thing I can do is say, turn in a form, and they do. On the positive side, though, we are addressing some issues successfully. One of the, I call it the worst junkyard in a residential area I've ever seen. It not only is the yard full, it's spilled out over into a road right away. But the bylaw officers are here and they're working with Vancouver Health, and they are making progress on that one. So there's always good news. You just got to look a little harder. Anyways, I'm all good today. Nice sunny day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Lee. I will just finish up the director's reports with a pretty brief couple of things that are going on. I think everything else has been reported on. I'll send out my notes on the municipal update that happened yesterday from Minister Osborne. There are some slides that go with that, so I'll send that out to directors here hopefully by the end of the day. A couple of neat things that I've done in the last, I guess, about a month are Zoom meetings with Girl Guides and Brownie groups through the Girl Guide organization, talking about elected leadership, being a woman in an elected position in local government, and how to advocate to your local government, and what kind of things we look after at the regional district versus other levels of government. So that was really, really interesting. It was just the most recent one was last night, and you end up with lots of interesting questions. And it's also great to see some of the children from some of our staff members. So they introduced themselves to me, which was quite neat. And so that's a pretty neat thing to see and be a part of. So that's all for directors' reports. We have no new business today. And unless anybody missed anything on their director's reports, I'm going to ask for our motion to go in camera. And that motion is that the public be excluded from attendance. Oops, sorry, I just lost it. From attendance at the meeting in accordance with section 91J and 2B of the community charter, please. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, motion carries. IT, did we have any questions come in? I don't see any.
There's no in the comments.
Okay, and nothing
thank you for we welcome you back. I'm sorry, I've totally lost what I was going to say. We welcome you back to the regularly scheduled board meeting of the Sunshine Coast Regional District for April 8th, 2021. If you're still with us, congratulations. Thank you. And we are very appreciative of your attendance here. You're here just in time for us to adjourn. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? So moved and seconded, and all those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. And any last questions from the audience? We're guessing not. So thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
So long.